this is our third video out of a series of 4 that make up the Exponential Growth Workshop, and in this video you're going to learn how you can make your good habits inevitable and your bad habits impossible. Now, like I mentioned, this is the third video out of a series of 4, which means that if you haven't seen video 1 and video 2, then they are absolutely required viewing if you're serious about your personal growth. So go ahead and click the 2 links below this video that will link you to video 1 and then video 2. Watch them the whole way through if you're at all serious about your personal growth. They are required viewing. Now, whilst we're on the topic of those 2 previous videos, I just wanted to say I'm absolutely blown away by the support that I've been getting. I wanted to say thank you to every single person that has recognized how powerful all of this stuff I've been telling you is. The support has been absolutely mind-blowing, and it shows how powerful this army can really be. In the first video, I taught you about the importance of small decisions and small habits and how much I used to struggle with making those decisions and starting to create small habits. In the second video, you learned that people aren't making the changes they want because they're only focused on their outcome, not their identity. They're focused on the results they want to get, not the person they want to become. And this has been scientifically proven to not be effective. In reality, you've got to focus on your identity and changing your identity if you want to make significant behavior change. But then we discovered that to change your identity, you've got to start proving to yourself through small wins that you are that new identity you're wanting to adopt. If you're trying to be someone that constantly achieves what they set out to do, you've got to start proving that to yourself by doing things you said you're going to do again and again and again and voting for that new identity. So that means that to make behavior change, you've got to change your identity. But to change your identity, you've got to change your behavior. Now, this seems like a vicious loop, but in this video, we're going to show you how you can actually use that loop to your benefit and benefit from this vicious loop and actually use it to start getting your small wins to change your identity and become a person you're proud of, but then ultimately to start making big changes in your life that completely blow up your world and experience results and a feeling inside of your brain that you will never have felt before in your life. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, there's 2 things I want to address. The first one is that the stuff you're going to learn in this very video is the stuff that I used to completely revolutionize my life. After struggling and failing again and again and again, so many years of wanting to improve my life, but failing, going back into old habits and failing to create new habits. The stuff that you are going to learn in this video is the stuff, the main difference that took me from where I was, depressed, procrastination, wasting all of my day, to where I am now. And I know that some of you are busy. I know that some of you have got other things going on in your life, but just please give yourself the next 10 minutes to watch this video right until the end, and you'll thank yourself for it later. Now, there's also been a couple questions that I've been getting of people saying that why do I want to make so many habits? Are they not constricting me? I want to live a life of freedom. Later on in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how habits are actually going to give you more freedom than you've ever felt before. Alright, so let's get into it. When we're talking about habits, it would be stupid to ignore one of the biggest scientific studies, or actually lots of different scientific studies, that were conducted by the king of habits himself, Charles Duhigg. He says that we tend to think of habits as one single thing, but actually,
each habit has 3 components. There's a cue, which is like a trigger for a behavior to start. And then there's a routine, which is the behavior itself. And then finally, a reward, which is how our brain learns to encode that automatic behavior for the future. And one of the big differences is that for years when people thought about habits, they focused in on the routine, on the behavior. But what we now know is that it's these cues and these rewards that really shape how habits occur and how to change them.
And Charles says that whether we like it or not, this kind of habit formation is what every single one of us has.
And what it will do is our brain will latch onto a cue that it associates with a behavior and a particular reward. And over time, that cue and that reward become more and more and more sort of intertwined. A particular part of your brain named the basal ganglia will relate them together. And the behavior that's associated with that will just sort of happen automatically.
Now, learning this theory is all well and good, but in reality, not many people read that books and had light bulb moments and could instantly change their life. That's where, in this video, we're going to take it one step further. We're going to use the method and the scientific research that Charles Duhigg did to actually make your habits, the good habits you're trying to make, inevitable, where there's no other option for you to create these habits and reap all of the benefit from these amazing habits. And also, we're going to use it to make those bad habits, the bad habits that are stopping you from making progress, and the bad habits that are making you feel guilty, depressed, and lethargic. We're going to show you how you can make those bad habits impossible. impossible. So there's no option for you other than to do the good habits. Let me explain. So we know that there needs to be a cue before we can make a habit. The cue is the thing that triggers in our brain to let us start the habit. And that's all good, but how can we actually implement this to start creating good habits and destroying bad habits? Well, there's actually multiple different strategies, almost too many for me to go over in this video at the moment, but all of them fall under one category. And that is that you want to make the cue apparent. You've got to make the cue apparent if you want to create a good habit. If you're trying to start a good habit, then think how powerful it would be to have a cue pop up right before you determine that you want to do the habit. The cue is the thing that triggers the habit. So if you can make that cue apparent whenever you want to start doing the habit, think how powerful that is. Your brain will automatically start to do the habit if you can artificially engineer a cue to happen right before you want to do the habit. Now, there's lots of different strategies, like I mentioned before, to do this, but let me just cover one very simple, perhaps the most basic strategy, but it's also remarkably powerful. In the early 2000s, researchers in Great Britain got around 250, I think it was 248 people to build better exercise habits over the course of 2 weeks. And the people were divided into 3 groups. The first group was the control group. They were simply asked to track how often they exercised. The second group was the motivation group. They were asked not only to track their workouts, but also to read some material on the benefits of exercise and other motivational things. And finally, there was the third group. These people received exactly the same motivational things as the second group, which made sure that they had equal levels of motivation, but they were also asked to make a plan for when and where they would exercise over the following week. More specifically, each member of the third group completed this very specific following sentence. During the next week, I will do at least 20 minutes of exercise at this day, at this time, in this place. So for example, I will do 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning in the park. And in the first and the second groups, it was 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once per week. And it's kind of interesting that the motivation that they were given barely impacted the behavior that the group did. But the third group, the group that were asked to say that very specific sentence, 91% of them exercised at least once per week. That's more than double the normal rate. So the very simple sentence that you can use to double the chances of creating your habits is, I will behavior at time in location. Writing this one super simple sentence has been scientifically proven to double your chances of creating a good habit, and it only takes a few seconds. Now, there are many other advanced strategies that you can use to make the cue apparent if you're trying to make a good habit, or to make the cue invisible if you're trying to make a bad habit. Yes, this is a double-edged sword, and you can use this to create good habits and destroy bad habits. And these strategies range from stuff like using the end of the first habit to start the second habit. So the end of the first habit is the cue to the second habit, and then the end of that second habit is the cue to the third habit. So you can actually simply, with a click of the fingers, multiply one habit into 5. And there are also stuff like you can change your whole environment. So you walk in a room and that is a cue to starting a good habit, or you remove the cue from even a room or even a building or even a city. You can remove the cue from that to get rid of the bad habit. But I want to cram as much as I can into these 10 or so minutes, so we're not going to go over those now, and we're actually going to go into the second stage of going over a routine, of going over a habit, which is routine. Right, so when you're trying to make a good habit, you want to make the habit, or the routine, if we're talking about Charles Duhigg's 3-step model for building a habit, you want to make the routine as easy as possible. Us as humans, and pretty much every single other animal out there, we've been wired to take the easy option. Now imagine you were in a field, and to your left there was an apple tree that was 100 meters away, and to your right there's an apple tree that's 5 meters away, and you really want an apple. Well, which tree are you going to go to? You're going to go to the tree that's 100 meters away, or the tree that's 5 meters away? Of course you're going to go to the tree that's easiest for you to get to, and in this case it's the tree to your right, the one that's 5 meters away. So when you're thinking about creating a good habit, you want to make the routine as easy as possible to do. And on the flip side, if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you want to make the routine as difficult as possible or even impossible. Now, I've talked about multiple times throughout this series that I was addicted to video games, and to many of you this sounds like a weird thing. Video games aren't physically addictive, but I was definitely mentally addicted, and I would go back to them again and again and again after trying to quit multiple, even probably more than 10 times. I said, right, today's the day I'm going to quit, and I would always fail and go back to it. Well, can you guess how I quit? Well, I actually sold the gaming computer and I never played again. As simple as it sounds, I made the routine impossible and I didn't go back to it. And it's just a very simple thing, but it stopped me playing video games and I got rid of that habit completely. A little bit of thought before can make a good habit inevitable and a bad habit absolutely impossible. Now, the strategy or the technique that I used here to make the routine easy or the routine impossible, if it's a good habit or it's a bad habit, is perhaps the most simple, but think how effective it is. It completely stopped me from playing video games completely. And again, there's lots of advanced strategies that we could go into, like priming your environment to make sure that you do that habit, or you make it easy to do the routine, or doing stuff like using a commitment device to make sure that you lock into doing the habit and you have zero chance of doing the bad habit, or using this 60-second rule to make even the most difficult habits super easy. But again, this video is going to be short, and the thing I want you to focus on is if you're trying to make a good habit, you make the routine easy, and if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you try to make the routine impossible. Now let's move on to the final thing. We've done cue, we've done routine, let's get on to reward. As humans, we evolved from an instant gratification world. We were out in the savannah getting hunted by predators, scavenging for food, and if there was a predator running towards us, we did the short-term thinking and we would run away from the predator. If we were hungry now, we would eat food now and worry about getting food later. If we were thirsty now, of course we're going to drink now. We're not going to save drink for later, save water for later. If we're thirsty now, we're going to drink now and worry about water later. That was an instant gratification world. But nowadays we live in a delayed gratification world. With the society around us and the way society is going, we live in a completely delayed gratification world. We study now so we can get a job later. We exercise now so we can be healthy later. We save money now so that we can retire later. And it's often difficult to do these things that require delayed gratification. It's difficult to work now for money later. It's difficult to study now for a job later. Or it's difficult to exercise now for a job later. That's because it goes against our nature. We are wired to have instant gratification, because that instant gratification was the thing that was keeping us alive. But actually, whereas most people view this as a bad thing, you can use this to your advantage to create good habits and remove bad habits by artificially creating instant gratification after you do the routine of a good habit and removing or restricting that feeling you get, that reward you get when you're trying to remove a bad habit. Now, the first two things we talked about, the cue and the routine, they ensure that we do the habit now. But for a good habit, making the reward pleasurable, and for a bad habit, making the reward not pleasurable, that ensures that we do the habit again and again and again. The first two, cue and routine, changing them, make sure we start the habit. The reward part is make sure that we do the habit again and again and again. So that's how powerful this really is. Now again, there's lots of specific strategies that you can use. For example, stuff like you can trick your brain into thinking the reward for doing one habit is actually the reward for doing a different habit. So you get the habit you're trying to introduce and you trick your brain into thinking the reward from a different habit, like eating chocolate, is actually the reward from doing the bad habit. Or you can do other things like amplifying the reward through mental tricks and tricking your brain into thinking that the reward is actually greater than it is from a habit you're trying to introduce. But again, they're advanced strategies and they take a long time to detail out, and we want to cover as much ground as possible in these videos. So we're now going to move on to the final point, which is what your life would look like if you became the master at implementing habits, and if you actually knew all of these strategies and you'd practice creating habits and you became the master at creating habits. What would your life look like? Now let's imagine what your life would look like if you started to become the master of habits. Imagine that you, I don't know, woke up 2 hours before everyone else in your household and everyone else around you, and you were doing those things that you know you should be doing, you just don't get round to it, those things that you love doing. Maybe you start exercising regularly and you get more in shape and you reap the benefits of having more mental energy because you're eating better now and you're getting more excited, you're more confident now, you're doing the things you love doing, so you radiate energy and the people around you start becoming a little bit more happier. Or you, I don't know, start meditating and you feel calm and you feel better about yourself, you're more self-confident and you're calmer and you're just tranquil as you walk through your life, and you start journaling. So you start writing down the things that are a little bit wrong in your brain, things that trouble you, things that worry you again and again, things that are causing you anxiety, causing you to be upset, causing you to be lethargic, and you just journal your way through them and you write your way through them, you think about them and you solve those problems. So those things that have been plaguing you for years, they completely disappear. Your insecurities, they slowly start to disappear. You get more energy, you're more confident, you're more excited. All of these things will start to happen if you become the master of your habits. But I want to go over the 3 main benefits that I've received and that you will receive if you become the master of your habits. Now again, I'm not claiming I'm the absolute master of habits, but I've got very good at them because I practice them daily for multiple years now, so I've become very good at them. So I'm just going to go over 3 of the benefits. First of all, you'll get this deep feeling of fulfillment that you only get when you're pushing yourself and you're reaching your potential. As humans, we are rewarded through deep, serious positive feelings about the person that we're becoming when we're growing. We get this deep sense of fulfillment that carries around with us wherever we go and spills into every single area of our life, including relationships, health, wealth, fitness. All of those things, having that deep fulfillment, it spills out through your life, and you only get it when you're reaching your potential and you're becoming a person that you're proud of. That's the first benefit. And second of all, think of all of the free time that you have. If you're able to get the things that you know you should be doing done, so you do more in less time, which is what you're able to do when you become the master of habits, because by meditating you're able to concentrate more, and by waking up early you have long periods of the day completely interrupted that you can do those things that really drive your life forwards. So you're actually going to have more free time to fill with whatever you love doing. And as weird as it sounds, by getting a master of habits, you'll get more free time because you're able to do more in less time. You're able to do the things that really matter in less time. So during those times that you've got more free time at the end of the day, let's say, you can do the things that you love doing. You don't have to completely give up video games. You don't have to completely give up watching YouTube. If that's something that you enjoy doing, then that is the time that you do it, after you've done everything you need to do. And it gets even better because you'll be able to do those things completely guilt-free, knowing that you've done amazing things throughout the day. You can sit down, play video games, or watch YouTube, or watch TV, or read a book, whatever you love doing. You'll be able to do it completely guilt-free, and you'll actually get so much more pleasure than you do at the moment. For me, when I was going through this period of watching YouTube and playing video games all the time, I actually realized now, thinking back, that whenever I would watch YouTube or play video games, I had this deep feeling of guilt because I knew that I was wasting that time. But I didn't realize it until after I'd sorted my life out and become very good at creating habits. And when you get very good at creating habits, you'll recognize that watching YouTube and playing video games is so much better when you can do it completely guilt-free. So the second one is more free time that you're able to fill with things that you love doing. And finally, the freedom that you'll get when you learn the strategies to create good habits and destroy bad habits is absolutely incredible. The freedom is amazing, and that's time freedom, financial freedom, but just freedom in general, because you're not restricted, you're not held in capacity by your bad habits, the habits that are wasting your time, the habits that are losing your energy from eating badly or not exercising. They're stripping you of energy, stealing your energy away from you. But when you get that back and when you start doing habits that improve your life, you get this freedom that is absolutely incredible. A freedom that I've never felt before until recently, since I started focusing on habits. The freedom is incredible, and I urge you, I hope, this is why I do this so much, because I want you to have that same freedom that I feel. Now you can clearly see from how passionate I'm getting about this thing that I've loved creating these free videos for you. And I want to thank you for making it this far into the 3rd video of this series. And I'm so blessed that so many people are emailing me and recognizing how powerful this stuff I'm telling you is. I'm so blessed about that. But because I love this so much and because I want you to have a real impact on your life, I've actually gone deeper and made a full exponential growth system, which is a full course that I'll be opening up to a limited number of clients and a limited amount of time. And the reason it's limited time and limited amount of clients is because I want to work very closely with you if you decide to go through that course. So that's going to be up in 2 days time. There's going to be the 4th video. It's going to detail to you what's in that step. So if you're really interested in becoming a master at creating habits out of thin air and abolishing bad habits pretty much instantly, then keep on the lookout for those 2 days. And I want to emphasize again that it's going to be open for maybe 5 days, and there's only going to be a limited amount of clients that are going to be able to go through that, because as you can see in the next video, I want to work with you very closely to ensure that you have a drastic change in your life very quickly. So that's going to be out in 2 days. Keep a lookout for that. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, feel free to email me at andrew@andrewkirby.net. And once again, I thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you have a great day.